Oh, here we go. And finally, without further ado, that's right, kiddies. 7 p.m. ish on Mondays with Tommy McKay, 3D Politics. And of course, David Van from SoonerPolitics.com.org and David Oldham, constitutionalgrounds.com. There they are, kids. Tonight on the show, we are packed. I've got all sorts of stuff. Fourth generation Broken Arrow resident, 46 News aficionado guest tonight, Matthew Vermillion. I'm going to bring him on just as soon as we get started. Story about TPS shifting to distance learning again. Why do we have a survey? And then also how to elect a president. We're going to learn a little bit about that tonight. And you guys, I have stumbled across one of the earliest recordings known to man in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It is a recording of a gentleman by the name of Alan Baines Johnston, circa 1899 back. And you're not going to believe this. In fact, it is incredible. I'll tell you right now. I don't even believe it. It's a recording. Apparently, the Bynum family has a history of these mass mandates in Tulsa, but that's all I'm going to say. We've resurrected, and we have found some sound source and done some audio archive restoration, and it's amazing. So anyway, without further ado, let's bring in our fine guest tonight. He's been there waiting while we've pushed through all the business. Let's bring in Matthew Vermillion, connecting to audio, fourth generation Broken Arrow resident, 46 News. They've been struggling for 6 months. Let's hear you talk so we know we can hear you.
I'm here.
Perfect.
Hear me.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Matthew, it's great to have you on the show, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Crap.
What happened?
I was hoping maybe I could get my bull bison with his cow bison, but they're both bulls.
Hey, we're open-minded around here. You can. It's nice. Nothing wrong with that.
That's just wrong.
Oh, drama. Matthew, thanks for being on the show. So 46 News is the main thing you did besides a whole lot of work in the church. And then and fourth generation Broken Arrow resident is I'm proud of that right now because of the mask mandate. It seems like Broken Arrow is the only suburb that's standing up for their rights. But you've also helped out Red River TV. I want to know a little bit about Red River TV in a minute. But first, 46 News, what is this 6 months battle you've been in with Facebook? What is the business there?
Man, we've been in a battle for more than that, probably a year and a half of just dealing with it off and on.
Okay.
And every so often we would get suspended and then we get opened back up. And, you know, that was
bad boy.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden 6 months ago, and we believe it was a video that went viral pretty big. That ended up triggering us, and so they ended up shutting us down totally. We can't share our website to Facebook anywhere, and you can't share anything that we post from anybody on 46 News Facebook page to anywhere. Nobody can share it. So it's just a real pain in the butt. But you know, Facebook is what they are. So you guys, some of you all out there are now starting to get the taste of what we've been dealing with for 6 months.
Right. Because you were ahead on the curve of getting the news out there in an independent fashion in the first place. I know a little bit back, I argued with the fact checkers telling me that I was incorrect to say that Hitler defunded the police. And it's, you know, when you start arguing all the way down to the Enabling Act, the idea that Hitler had, you know, constitutionally justified policemen from your neighborhood, you know, is a total joke. He defunded the police and put in military operatives. And so anyway, I argued with fact checkers on that. Of course, they never got back to me to tell me.
Of course not. You can't even communicate with them. It's so hard to deal with trying to even put in a complaint or file anything. It's just like talking to a wall.
Right.
So I was disallowed from complex entities interactions on October 29th. No, just a week before the election.
Oh
I
yeah.
think
Yep.
we spoke about that, and I think you had this similar kind of a thing. Now, they have not told me why, just that I violated community standards more than once, whatever that means.
Oh,
And
wow.
Yeah.
and I have been offered no means of redress.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that what
Yeah.
you've been going through? I mean, have they told you what you supposedly did,
No,
or is it all a mystery?
it's all a mystery. Is exactly, they just tell you you violated community standards and you have no idea what those are.
Yeah.
You're playing a guessing game of trying to figure that out. Now, when we were dealing with it during that year and a half prior and just hit and miss type things, there was a little bit of an issue with one of the devices that we had on our website that was causing an issue. So I took that off, and lo and behold, we were able to post on Facebook again. But like I say, it's a hit and miss, and you don't have any idea exactly what those things are. And we did everything and changed all sorts of other stuff and tried to figure it out, and still was not able to do it on a 6-month thing. Now, here's an interesting thing. My personal Facebook page right now, I can't live stream. I haven't been able to live stream since I live streamed the 45 train rallies that we were doing. That second one is what I guess got me, and now I'm not able to post a live stream for a month.
You violated community standards.
Well,
Once again,
You're
Tom,
not allowed
let's
to advertise
Tom,
for Trump.
yeah,
Tom, let's plug his sites, both him and Kevin's site.
yeah, please do. Plug your sites. What are they?
46news.com, and it's not active right now because we can't really do much with it. But the one that really is going is Red River TV, and that's with Kevin Batts and him and his wife Janelle. Man, those two are awesome people.
Yeah.
Right.
And they do a great job here in Oklahoma, out of
Good,
Oklahoma City.
good direction, Van. So tell us about Red River TV. How did you help them out, and how did they start? How did you help them?
Listen, they reached out to me. Gosh, Matt, it's been like 5 years ago, wasn't it? And then Kevin and Janelle moved down to Texas for a while. They still stayed connected and plugged in to Oklahoma politics, but now they're back in the Oklahoma City area, and they especially do video incredibly well. Very high
amazing.
So we had
amazing.
Kevin Batt on the show earlier this year, I think, but I don't remember the Red River TV being a bigger issue. We were talking about something else, I think.
Yeah.
But
that's his forte. And Janelle, they do just fantastic stuff. And I want to put another plug in. If you're looking for a video production company, Kevin and Janelle are fantastic for your next project. Yeah.
And they are great people, but I'll tell you, they haven't been banned from Facebook, but their numbers have dropped. The algorithms, of course, have been adjusted to where they're not hardly getting any coverage. And lo and behold, you know how that works. So
this is a similar process of arbitrary enforcement of law. There are all these rules. They're arbitrarily enforced, which means there are no rules.
No.
They just pick and choose who they're going to bring down. Van.
No, these are the things they do where they notify you. And I got that same notification about 2 weeks out that they were going to limit, what do you call complex interactions thing? But they didn't.
Entities.
Yes, they couldn't cite me for anything. They didn't have anything on me. Who knew? I'm a choir boy. So anyway, and we were talking Oldham, it was at your reception, your gathering there. The three of the rest of us were sitting around the table, and I mentioned that about 10 days out from the election, my readership on IP addresses, that unique IPs that pull up my stuff, I went from 50,000 a week down to 5,000 the week prior to the election.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But what I didn't tell you guys since then is the very next week after the election, I jumped back up to 50,000, and it's always Facebook. Matthew, you said something very important here, that we shouldn't totally bail on Facebook because we need to use it as a tool in whatever way we can.
Absolutely.
And I agree with that.
Absolutely. One of the things I'm really frustrated with is the people wanting to go to Parlor and all those different places. I get that, and I agree with that 100%. We can be able to use those social media platforms, but we can't then abandon the area that we're in, because then we just become an echo chamber, and then we're all gathered in one place where they can just pull the plug. Let's make them kick us off of Facebook. Then we become a PR nightmare to them because we show them they've done that to us. That's what they don't want to do.
Exactly.
And I'm wondering, has anybody out there, any of our listeners, as well as you, Matt, or David, or anybody, has anybody read the contracts? Remember that we don't see people being dragged off of airplanes anymore because they were violating their contract with the passengers they were dragging off the plane.
Sure.
Facebook has to be violating their contract with us by declaring and changing all these community standards and setting them up. They're no longer a platform where free speech reigns. So we've got to have some contractual, some ability to come at them contractually. Do we not?
I doubt that. I really do. That's the reason why they won't take a dime from us on subscriptions or membership, is exactly so they can do this.
Yeah, and what's weird is now I can't even do ads for another organization I do those for because of the suspension I'm personally under. So, yeah, I don't disagree with you, David. There may be some contractual there, but they have got when you look at that thing, I mean, it's huge.
Oh, I know, it's huge.
So it's the lawyer's wet nightmare. You know what I'm saying? And I just wish there was a lawyer that was willing to stand up and go at it. But the problem is that 203 classification that they have. I mean, they're just free to do anything, and until that's addressed, I don't think anything's gonna be able to be done.
Hey, thanks for tuning in tonight. It's Monday night on Facebook Live with 3D Politics. Tommy McKay, your fine host, your verbal Viking, here with David Vann from SoonerPolitics.org, David Oldham, ConstitutionalGrounds.com, and tonight, special guest, Matthew Vermillion, 46 News, and now helping to promote the Red River TV. We want to move on now and talk a little bit about the big, giant breaking news in sports. By golly, we're going to do sports on Thursday. Hey. And so this deal with the coach in Broken Arrow, is it David Alexander? Is that correct? And so
David Alexander.
How great has he been? Why did he get fired? Why are we ticked about it? Of course, I'm on a total boycott of any oval ball whatsoever. That's how strict I am right now. So I'm totally
is American football really a sport?
Oh, here we go.
Hey, now let's don't start that. It's a better sport than that soccer, that communist sport soccer.
Yeah.
Hey,
finally, somebody calls it like it is. There's a soccer player behind every door.
Well, why don't we get a report from Matthew? What are the facts, Matthew, on this?
So David Alexander was brought in 2013 in Broken Arrow. He has been a coach of several different programs, was assistant coach at Jinx, and then also a head coach of the Tulsa Talons here in Tulsa.
Right.
So he's got some history. He also was in the NFL. He was drafted in, I think it was 1987, and played in Philadelphia Eagles and some other places. So he has some great history in football. His record currently at 7 years of being in Broken Arrow is 60-23. That's not nothing to laugh at. And he brought the first football state championship in the school's history in Broken Arrow. I mean, that was a great thing that finally it happened. And here today, I get this message: he's been fired.
Yeah.
They don't call it that we just decided we're going to separate ways. And we don't have a reason as to why. Now, from what I'm hearing on news sources, that tomorrow David's going to end up coming out and do a news conference and kind of explain his side of the thing. But this is weird. And to me, it smells like a parent thing, something with the parents. But this is a year of COVID. You're going to have to understand there's going to be some weird things that happen with the game. And he got into the playoffs. It wasn't like he did, and he won the first game of the playoffs, went on to go to the second tier, and ended up losing against Union, which we lose against Union quite a bit.
Now, Matthew, I don't mean to push back on you, but there's only 16 teams in that division. Half of them go to the playoffs, and 8 of them. and his team lost in the first round of the playoffs. So
but you got to understand, Broken Arrow's chances of going to the playoffs has not been very great in years past.
Oh, right.
Until David got into the program.
I don't think it's even worth being called a state championship when there's only 16 teams competing for that same trophy.
Okay, you guys.
I'm sorry. I'm up.
You got to understand how high school football is done in Oklahoma, and it's a little different.
I know.
So it's not like this is the National Football League.
Really,
so.
It's not about the guy's record. There's clearly some politics. It's not about he's bad at football.
Okay.
I mean, it's obviously politics.
Either that or there's something else going on that we don't know about. But, I mean, I have not heard anything. And I have heard under the radar from some parents that David is a conservative. Now, I'm not trying to whitewash him in any way or hurt him. But that's from what I've heard a little bit. So I don't know. There's something more to this that meets the eye.
Tom,
yeah.
David and Kathy and their family have been longtime clients of mine. I've known them. We've talked about a lot of this. I think I was one of the first people to really openly suggest that David consider coaching. He'd always coached his son, Jake. Jake was one of the best lineman centers, top rated, went to TU, blew his knee out in preseason, never played another down. It's sad, but David was part of the Jinx legacy under Alan Tremble, and they went through some scandals, and they broadened the investigation. And in the broadening of that investigation, David was caught up with a technical violation. And as part of that, he was suspended for a year. Now, I've done work for David. Fact is, I put up their Christmas lights a couple weeks ago, and they've been longtime clients of mine. Not just them, but Eagle's Nest Homes, which was a home construction company that David previously operated before he went into coaching in a big way. I've done work for them. What happened with David was, they asked all these questions in this investigation, and, have you ever provided monetary help to a player or the player's family? Well, he had a freshman who was sick for over a month. And he asked this freshman kid, he said, man, it's taking you a long time. And the kid said, well, we don't have any heat on in our house. And it was February. Wow. His mother, single mom, was without a job. And it was a tough deal. And so what David did, said, look, I'm going to go turn that gas on, and I'm going to hire your mom to do some construction cleanup. Now, I'd done some of this, punch list stuff and cleanup stuff for him. He paid that woman less than he paid me. So this was in no way a offering of money to keep the kid on the team, to keep the kid from walking. But according to the rules, he can't do that. I wrote to Tulsa World. It was published in a paper about this time, 2011, I think it was. I said, I give David an A in Christianity for what he did. Yeah. But he went through that suspension. And one day I was working on some lighting in their kitchen. And, Kathy said, well, David came in. And I said, hey, I hear your suspension's about up. Tell me, what'd you learn from all this? And he says, listen, David, I'd do it again. And he said, well, wait a minute. Let me tell you, I would go tell the athletic director what I'm going to do, and then I'd do it again. Well, another one of the coaches there, Red Griffin, who was suspended. Now, Red was really caught up in the bigger deal, and so was Tremble. Those two guys deserved a suspension, okay, for what they did. But Red Griffin and I go to church together, and we were working at the church one Saturday morning, and I was talking about, hey, isn't it great? David's now coaching here, Broken Arrow, his alma mater, and, it's great. And, my son is on the pastoral staff of this church, Destiny Church in South Broken Arrow. And I stopped and I said to Red, Coach Griffin, I said, I need to call David. And I called him up that morning, and I said, David, I said, remember what you said in your kitchen after the suspension's over that you would do it again. And I said, I'd give you an A in Christianity. I said, I'm texting you my son, a youth pastor here, head of the youth department. When you got a family has a need like that, call my son, see what the church can do to save your butt from getting suspended again. And he said, well, I thank you for that. And last summer, and actually this fall, we talked again. I said, hey, the offer still stands. Let the church be the church and do that, So, David's got a big heart. David is a genuine soul. I don't know. Did he do something we haven't heard of? I don't know. I mean, all of us are fallible, right? Okay. So I don't know that, and I'm not suspecting that. I have no reason to believe there's anything for cause. I don't know.
Well, look at us on 3D Politics breaking news. Look at that. Wow. Because we don't know. We literally, so apparently Matthew Vermillion from 46 News helping out Red River TV. At this point, you're telling us we know nothing except for he's been fired. He makes a statement tomorrow. Is that correct?
We're understanding he's supposed to be coming out with some sort of conference tomorrow. We just don't have any idea exactly what the deal is.
Yeah.
Other than Broken Arrow's decided that they want to move on and change directions, which I don't understand. Direction, does that mean going to the losing side now because we were winning? So I don't understand. I totally don't get it.
Hey, Matthew, what was the regular season record this year?
I think we only lost 2 games, and that was it. If I remember right, out of all the games. So
the new direction is round ball, with high socks. Close to
soccer's is that the communist sport soccer?
I can't say it. I can't say it.
Oh, Matthew, remember what was it in the early 90s? Gary Gibbs got fired because he couldn't beat Texas. Sometimes it comes down to that one rivalry game. If you can't win that, you're gone.
What's crazy is that we had a hard time beating Union forever and ever and ever and ever. We beat them during my junior year or senior year, and then it wasn't until my son was in high school in 2011 that we beat him finally again. And then we beat him for almost 14 games up until the loss that we just had with David Alexander. If that's the case, that's weird.
Well, hopefully we'll find out tomorrow. He'll make a statement. We'll learn a little bit more behind the scenes. We got a couple of minutes before we let you go out of here. Matthew Vermillion, I want to appreciate you for being here. Thank you very much. But what else? Well, tell me, they've decided that Pork Chop Hill is going to be the mask mandate. I would have let it go way down the road, but no, they want to fight about the mask. Tell me about the masks. What do you think about the masks? Hate the mask with me.
And it is a no deal with me, and you know that.
I'm teeing
I'm thankful. I'm thankful that Broken Arrow has done so great in keeping it to where we're free here. Thank God for that.
God.
I'll tell you this story real fast. We had little circles, of all the cities that have done mandates and proposing ones and stuff like that. That was up on the deal at the city council meeting, and somebody pointed out, if you look at Broken Arrow, it's not showing that we're, against or not doing this mask thing. It's a beacon of freedom that we're showing the rest of the country. Hello, this is how you do it. And I think that's the awesome thing. And I think people actually get more sick. More people that I know that's wore the mask are the ones that are getting sick because they're wearing the mask. Just my
I haven't been able to verify it, but I read a meme that claimed that Fauci co-authored a paper in 2008 that said the vast majority of supposed flu deaths or deaths during the Spanish flu of 1918 was caused by mask wear. By bacterial pneumonia.
I can tell you to verify right now, Fauci, this will lead us into the story at the bottom of the hour. TPS has gone to distance learning again, even after they took the survey to ask everybody what they wanted. We don't really care what you want. We just want to take a survey. And then, and that's totally goes in the opposite direction of what Fauci said either today or yesterday. Fauci said kids should be in school, but Deborah Gist, or Superintendent Deborah Gist, there she goes, arguing with Fauci. Is she phobic of doctors? Yes, man.
It's the unions are those whom you are not allowed to disagree with. This weekend, the unions had a cow, and she pulled back. I'm telling you, the unions control everybody from Joy Hoffmeister on down. Now, again, this was all distance learning. They were just providing babysitters down at the school.
All right, we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank again Matthew Vermillion, 46 News and Red River TV. Matt, thanks for coming out tonight. I appreciate you being here. We're going to bring you back again. Thanks for all you did and have done before we got here to try to pick up the new Zoom media format. And we'll have you on again. But thanks again, Matt Vermillion, 46 News and Red River TV, and Broken Arrow, which is also a claim to fame these days. We're going to send you out at this point.
My screen is Broken Arrow. The other half is Tulsa.
That's right. Thank you, David.
All right. Matthew Vermillion, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
See
you next time. Yes. Thanks for being here. Tommy McKay, your fine verbal Viking with 3D Politics at Tommy McKay on Twitter and Facebook, with David Van, Soonerpolitics.org, and David Oldham, Constitutionalgrounds.com. We've got more to talk about. TPS is shifting to distance learning, and also towards the end of the show, don't forget, I've got this salvaged audio from 1899 regarding a mask mandate all the way back then at the turn of the century with another Bynum mayor.
You got someone in the green room, Tom.
Who are we? Let's see. And so, thank you.
Blockhead the Cube Man. Yes.
We got to balance that puppy out. So here we go. I'll set this thing up. This is TPS shifts. TPS announces students shifting to distance learning. Tulsa Public Schools announced that pre-kindergarten through third grade students will shift back to distance learning. Officials said the move to distance learning will start on Wednesday, December 2nd. Superintendent Dr. Deborah Gist said the shift to distance learning will go through the last day of classes before winter break. They always know when the winter break's coming. We never know when the kids are going to class or not going to class, but by God, we know when the winter break's coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's already Monday. I don't know. Kids aren't going to learn anything by Friday. Let's just call it off this week. Officials said blah, 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 blah. Includes all Tulsa Public School students in level 3 and 4 special education programs and our deaf education programs. Just leaving the challenged behind. So there is an entire, I believe I picked this up from KFAQ, and it leads you to her entire letter that goes on. But my big, there's no reason to go into the weeds of their big giant excuse with Deborah Gist. She's questionable in my opinion anyway, and to be dealing with children. I mean, from that last post I gave her haul on. But why would you go to the trouble to pretend you're an education outfit, do surveys to ask people what they want instead of telling them what they need to learn, and then not even follow what the people wanted by going, look, we're going to do what we want anyway. What do you guys got?
It's just, I got nothing.
That's not allowed.
Isn't that the way of all socialists?
Well, listen.
Please wax eloquent.
None of it makes any sense. And isn't that just the way they all behave? I mean, whatever doesn't make sense, that's what they choose.
Well, think of it. If we'd been honest with ourselves 100 years ago when we mandated that kids got to go to school, what we really meant is they need to go to the babysitter so mom doesn't have the kids all day and mom can both work. That's really what this is coming down to, is they're providing childcare, and
at the very least, and that's what you were getting into right at the bottom of the hour, is they were just babysitting the kids, saying, let's show up and pretend for a little while.
Yeah, it's, that's why Epic exploded far sooner. I mean, they were on a level, they were on a trajectory to become the largest within 3 years. But this thing just blew up because, you know what, families knew. They knew, Tom, they knew, David, last July that they were going to get jerked around by the public school districts. And they said, forget this. We're going to go with what we know. Epic is going to be providing it, and they'll have tutors that we can access. They know how to do this thing. We're going to go with a certain thing so that we aren't playing this musical chairs.
I mean, many parents caught on in 2018 with the harbinger of the teachers' disloyalty to the students first and the parents also, and then the citizens, taxpayers, by walking out on the children. And it was forced by the unions. It's a sick thing what they did. And the problem that we're having today in today's society is that we're on defense. The American public has never dealt with a takeover of a free society before. They are employing plans that have been working for over 100 years. They're following a simple brownie making formula, and they are going down the path. There is literally, everybody's like, what can we do? What can we do? You better start knocking people over when they tell you to wear a mask. I mean, if you cannot stand up for a maskless society, you don't have a society. I'm sorry. It is ridiculous. We are totally gone. I've seen pictures on the internet. The meme has a half a slice away of illustration of intubation, where they show a thing going down a guy's throat and they say, here's intubation. It's a lot, wearing a mask is more comfortable than that. To which, of course, my rude reply was, now show us an illustration of anal sex and tell us how comfortable tyranny is. I mean, literally, they're going to do whatever they want to do, and they're pushing it down our intubated throats. And it's just absolutely insane what the sorry guys.
And no, I mean, I love the rant. The thing is that, and this is the thing, is intubation is what's killing people because it's the wrong treatment. It's malpractice. But so yeah, if you're gonna choose, one bad thing and from out of that into the fire, and keep going down this road, then you kind of deserve what you're gonna get. The thing is that there are so many alternatives, and as we learned from all the deaths in New York, especially, intubation was what was killing these people. They were blowing people's lungs out, because that's not what they needed. What they needed was pure oxygen, and they needed something to fight the infection, and that was what they were saying was, disallowed and prohibited, and it's really not that difficult, guys. Anyway, it gets me on my own rant.
Yeah, but I mean,
and what is, I watched an hour and a half today of a court case where they're trying to shut this guy's restaurant down because he had a few people in there that he was serving food and coffee to, in Kentucky, and the governor's order said that he can't do it unless it's outside only, and blah, blah, blah. And so the health department's trying to take his business out, put his workers on the street, according to his lawyer.
I mean, this is basic.
They're on the verge of homelessness, his workers, if he shuts down. They will be homeless because they won't have a...
It's a nice street, though, David.
But that's a COVID risk.
It's got a curb.
But the thing is that they're trying to do this, and they don't have the authority, and they're doing it without anybody having ever been harmed.
Okay, so I heard a story today about a pastor who got up at the pulpit yesterday, and he stood up there and he took his tie off, and he said, "This is now a strip show." He said, because San Francisco doesn't allow us to meet and have church, so I just stripped off my tie. And he said, this now qualifies as a strip show.
Yeah.
But you got a good ruling last week. Oldham, you got news on that Supreme Court ruling? It was 5-4.
Nice.
Yeah.
Churches.
Yeah, we got there was some good stuff came out of the ruling. There was some horrible stuff. and you learned a lot about John Roberts.
Yeah.
The John Roberts is not a good man whatsoever.
Now, hold him.
Now, and I will say that unequivocally. I will never take it back. John Roberts is a criminal, and as well as the others with him on the losing side, because there were 5 that did vote appropriately. Now, this was Cuomo's church ban, basically, banning churches from being able to have attendees and larger attendances. And they rightly concluded, and Gorsuch went even further in his opinion, his consenting opinion, but differing but consenting opinion, in saying that the First Amendment actually means what it says. That's the net result of what they said. That they can't abuse or violate the free exercise clause and the freedom to assemble clause. They cannot do those. So the free exercise of religion and the freedom to assemble, they cannot ban those even in a pandemic. And they said that they cannot, just because there is an emergency does not trump the Constitution. The Constitution still reigns. So good stuff.
Tom, the last show we did, all 3 of us in the studio I'm sitting in now, we talked about Bynum having this, shut down of the restaurants for 2 weeks. That was in mid-March.
15 days to flatten your head.
There you go. Yeah. So remember what I said. I feel like a prophet. I said, GT, I'm serving you notice that I reserve all of my constitutional rights, especially the right to peaceably assembly and the right to petition my government for redress of grievance.
That's right.
And my God, this has gone way further than any of us thought it would go last spring.
I thought I was a pre-prophet when I said that GT Bynum was a bad guy for shaming the parents for letting their children play in rainwater. And now what's his MO right now, a year later? Shaming people for not wearing a mask. And today, his soundbite was saying, we're going to enforce this mask mandate against people who are not obeying the law.
Let's lay down some facts, because some things did come out today from our city council that they are stepping up their enforcement. Now their enforcement, they're not coming after the customers. What are they doing? They're going after the retailers, and they're saying
for not coming after the customer.
Okay. But here, exactly. Isn't that just like, that's the passive aggressive government for you. But here's my point. He said that in his press statement that they have to comply with the county health department. My problem with this is you've got 2 levels of government, and it is not up to the city with our city council or our police to do the bidding or to give over the municipal powers to a county agency of the state government.
Now, what's primary, county or the city? From what I understood was that the city rents their land and creates.
Listen, Tom, our police will not enforce immigration law. They say that's up to the federal government to do.
Which police? The municipal?
Yes, the Tulsa Police Department will not respond, no matter how much facts you have that somebody is an illegal alien. The coyotes just dropped them off. I mean, literally, you could have video and everything, and they say that's not for us to enforce. That's a federal entity. So I'm going to say the same thing about with the state and the county stuff. What's happened here is Bynum is passive aggressively making what's his name, Dr. whatever, the non-medical doctor, Dart.
Dr. Dart.
Yeah. Because remember, he says, well, I promised him that whatever he said, I would do.
Herein lies the problem. Bynum said, we've done everything the health department asked us to do. There's the
Exactly.
problem. I didn't vote for anybody in the health department.
Thank you.
I'm not represented by Dr. Dart with his lisp. I had no opportunity to say yay or nay on Dr. Dart.
Right.
It's absolutely insane. And if you're going to have a spokesperson, do one who can speak. It's absolutely insane that we're supposed to take this guy's word for something. And if you've ever run a restaurant, anybody who's ever run a restaurant in Tulsa, Oklahoma, hear me and know I'm true. The Tulsa Health Department is the most unruly, communistic group of people you'll ever deal with. They will shut you down for nothing. Okay. Yes. But I'll guarantee you, their friends who own a restaurant, they'll stay open in violation of anything they want. It's totally nepotism, totally corrupt.
And listen, I ran a retail establishment where I had to have the health department in every month. And there were certain things that inspector would come, he said, no, you don't really need to be doing that. You can stop doing that. And so I'll stop doing it. And then 6 months later, another inspector comes in and writes me up because I'm not doing it. This is the kind of double speak you get from them. And so, it all depends on how each inspector decides to interpret things and how much they're going to just be a butthead. I mean, an absolute, irritant.
Remember, that is bureaucracy in general. That's the problem with bureaucracy. And that's why we have to end so many of these bureaucracies.
Yes.
There's absolutely no need for them. That's why they have permitter schemes and licensing schemes, is to build a bureaucracy and to feed the bureaucracy. Sure. I have talked to license board members of different licensing boards, and they're like, well, how would we pay for it if we didn't have the license fees? It's like, get rid of them all. And these people are just aghast when I would mention that. But remember, every single one of these, they're not doing regulation, they're doing deprivation, and then trying to rule us and use their position to extort us. That's what they're doing. That's all they're serving. And so it makes sense that they would go back and forth on this stuff, and you can't keep up with it.
And as we learned on Tommy's Twitter tirade last week, was that these people pretend, oh no, you don't need force. You don't need force. No, you just refuse business. And then when you get to the tail of the tape, it's like, just yank their business license. It's like, damn, it's down to force.
Always force.
Always down to force.
Always.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Absolutely. Listen, any law, and legislators, city council members, listen to me. Any law, any regulation that you make, you have to ask myself, am I willing to kill somebody for not complying? Because to use the power of the police is use the power of force, which if at any time they fight with, could result in death.
Yeah, here's
and does your law deprive somebody before they have received due process? In other words, is what you're doing a prohibition act or a mandate act where it deprives them of their life, liberty, or property? And so if you're taking business away from somebody, like that case in Kentucky, or what they're trying to do
David,
here,
let's back it up even further. If nobody has been harmed, then why are you being punished? Now, I can understand if somebody's being harmed, there may be injunctions, there may be a shutdown while we investigate, things. So there are certain things where, to stop further harm, there may be some injunction there. So I would even give them that. But they are literally punishing you when nobody's hurt.
Correct. And that's the point, because government is supposed to be there to bring us justice if somebody is acting irresponsibly or abusing their liberty by abusing the liberty of others.
I want to tune everybody back in who is listening. I want to get a comment. I want to get to a comment from a listener as well. But for everybody who continues to enjoy 3D politics. Tommy McKay, your verbal Viking and fine host, right here every Monday night with David Oldham from constitutionalgrounds.com and David Van from soonerpolitics.org, tackling all the great issues of the day. And we also, don't forget, we've got that ancient audio and sound resurrected from all the way back in 1899 coming up. Very exciting. Go ahead, Van.
Let me piggyback on this thing. I was sitting at a traffic light tonight, rush hour traffic, left turn lane, behind a pickup truck, and he's hauling some stuff, construction. And sure enough, we're waiting and waiting. I can't see what's going on, but all of a sudden, this guy floors it, and the arrow's yellow, and the last two cars in front of me go through as the light's turning red. And ahead of them, I'm seeing another truck with the trailer that he couldn't get his butt in gear. And so the sensors on the left turn lane turned yellow. And you guys have all been in traffic, seen this happen. And I sat there and I'm like, well, I'm not in big enough hurry, and they're going to hit me with a $500 fine if they catch me running that red light. Yeah. So I thought about that $500 fine. Has anybody been harmed? No. And if they have been harmed, who gets the $500? The person that's harmed? No. The city monstrosity collects that $500. Yep. Listen, I have a hard time when the government starts collecting penalties before any harmed person can get their day in court and get a lawsuit and actually collect damages for harms done by somebody in tort law. The government always says, no, we get to assess all of our fines, even though the government's not harmed. Well, people are harmed.
From what I understand, traffic court isn't even a crime. Traffic is not criminal. It's traffic. It's
exactly. And so many of these are rules that are set up that they can penalize you because, we make these rules to prevent things from happening. Right. So I ask you, the cop that writes tickets for red light runners, is he really being a peace officer, public safety officer, or has he become a revenue agent for the government to collect taxes? Because they have set up this scheme to essentially enhance our city government by all of these citations coming in. Mm-hmm. And this is the thing that Rand Paul said about Ferguson, Missouri, that created the powder keg by which you had the riots there. The hands up, don't shoot.
Actually, Rand Paul was quoting Obama's Justice Department, who did the research.
Yeah, but
so it was Obama who said that.
Right, but he was pointing out that fact. I remember it hit the news, and God bless him for pointing it out, because that's part of his agenda here, is that, we have turned public safety into revenue agents. We've turned our cops. What happened to the guy that shot David Ware, who shot two cops? One of them's dead, and it's all because they were it was piracy. They were hijacking his car.
Right.
He had every right. If you or I would have tried to hijack his car and start beating the snot out of him, just like George Zimmerman beat the snot out of Trayvon Martin.
Just like that Manford cop beat the snot out of his chief boss from Manford.
No.
If one of those cops would have just complied with the other cop.
Yeah, I know. But my point on this is just because there was two cops hijacking a car, the fact that they're wearing a badge doesn't make their hijacking legal.
Well, according to our DA, it looks like it is.
Yeah, well, Oldham has never been more correct about licensure, because it all goes back to license and paper tag, et cetera, which is the same thing about the mask mandate, which I'm still not over yet, because Bynum is threatening businesses with this mask mandate. He's saying the license is the key to their existence. And Bynum will say, well, we found out from somebody we know that we like that you are not doing what we like. Even remember how it works if you're a witch. It doesn't matter if you're not a witch. string you up anyway. You get an A in Christianity, and what does that get? You nailed to the cross, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even things such as, getting a building permit because you want to do some remodeling in your own home. By law, by ordinance, you're supposed to do that. And when in reality, all it does is serve them notice that you're doing something and gives them permission to come in and reassess the value of your home. So most people anymore, if it's their own home, they're not even getting the permit.
Right.
Yeah. And this,
and supposedly it was all started because that was the method to make sure that the building on the home was done sufficiently so it's not going to fall over in years following.
It's always for your safety. Remember that.
Or the safety of someone else.
It comes down to the definition of life. These citizen tyrant pukes plus the liberal nurses are all shaming everybody, saying, oh, don't you want to live? Don't you want to live? I'm like, define life. You define life for me. Freedom over safety. I'm not going to run around with a yeast infection on my face and living in fear to go to the Home Depot just because you are a freak. It's the citizen tyrant pukes, and all they want to do is use the shame of the bully pulpit of the mayor to push everybody around to be the first ones to turn you in. It's literally Fahrenheit 451. I am amazed at how many sheep that are out there. Well, I'm seriously thinking of moving to BA. And don't forget, because I love Twitter because it's 140 characters of vile insult, and that's right up my alley. And all I know is at the end of it, I only had a few little letters left, and it was risk equals wage gap. This is the thing they don't understand. They keep trying to define my risk for me, and that removes me from control of the fruits of my labor. Risk equals wage gap. I make more if I take more risk. And if you're going to calculate my risk for me, you're going to calculate my job for me and how much I can make. And they're making the business. I tell you, I ran a smoker that had already been run for 10 years. Then I became kitchen manager, and the Tulsa Health Department came in and said, clean the smoker. And like, it's rocks. It's a built-in rock and concrete smoker. It's like saying take an iron pan that's been seasoned properly for the kitchen and scrape it down to its stainless steel again. Are you a moron? Yes, you work for the Tulsa Health Department.
That's right.
Take your mask off and get the hell out of my restaurant. We're going to have armed guards to have dinner just to beat the police back while we eat dinner. Okay, that's how it's going to work.
Well, we're going to have, I've been saying this for a long time. You guys know this, but remember that the people we have to defend ourselves against are the police.
That's
because
correct.
They're the ones who are enforcing all these illegal laws and ordinances and orders and all this stuff.
Oldham, licensing is 100% correct. It is the leverage key to everything you do. You have to have a license to wipe your ass. No matter what you do, licensing is the thing. That's why I have my whole mayor's thing was extending the lifespan of cyclical municipal regulations. If you have a license that you buy, we need to double the lifespan of that license so that it lasts 2 years instead of 1, 5 years instead of 2.5, whatever it is. It's the same thing. This is how they steal our taxes.
But if you run again this time, you'll be saying get rid of licensing, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. when the big money comes in and tells me to run, here, we want you up there as a target, Tom. I'll be like, well, here's what I'm going to say. That's correct. We're going to nail all that stuff. Van, what do you got?
Oh, well, I taught school up in Minneapolis at a private Christian school right out of college in 1982. And when I was going through my training for certification with this national organization that provided this curriculum, they told us specifically, do not seek state certification either as an educational institution or as an individual teacher. And they said, by doing so, you are admitting that they have the ability to control your ministry. Now, I was the minister of education at this church. And then they made their point this way. They said, do you know that Harvard University has never had any government accreditation and never will consent to government accreditation? Ever.
Amazing.
Think about that. They are saying, who are you to tell us how to run an educational institution?
Right.
You know, and this is really what it comes down to, folks, is we got to say, who made you God? I mean, listen, they don't even teach us how to drive in public schools. That's if there was anything a high school should have, that's one of the most important vocational training things that any adult can have. And they don't teach it. They teach stuff that makes no sense. And the things that we really need to know, they don't teach. Right. So I'm just saying, look, you know, who are you? Who are you to do the
I
the
said
license?
a couple of shows ago, look, when they didn't let us have Easter and we didn't they said you can't have Easter and we didn't, you know, fight, we were beat back then.
Yeah.
We're coming from down under.
Now, private organizations, agencies that want to have their own accreditation standards, that's fine. It's totally voluntary if you want to do it. Harvard won't even be accredited by North Central Accreditation of universities and colleges. They don't want anybody trying to come around and stick their nose in and tell Harvard how to run an education facility. So, you know, if you want to be part of a guild, you want to be part of a trade association, fine. Knock your socks off. Do what you want. But for the government to mandate it on everybody, I really have a problem with. So, yeah, I agree with Oldham on that. I'd say if people want some seal of approval, fine. Somebody can go and get their accreditation.
Seek a higher second opinion and pay more for something like that.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be dictated and have your ability to compete eliminated by government simply because you don't have some piece of paper. Hey, you are joining us once again on 3D Politics every Monday night, 7 p.m. to 8-ish. Tommy McKay, your fine host, Verbal Viking, David Oldham from constitutionalgrounds.com, as well as David Van from SoonerPolitics.org. And I got to tell you guys, I'm really excited about our final segment tonight. I dug and dug and dug, and you know that R.N. Bynum, you remember who R.N. is? Now, G.T. Bynum is our current mayor in Tulsa, right? And you all know what the G stands for. Greg Robinson, correct. So G.T. Bynum was elected to a second term in 2020 when Tulsans went to the polls. But Robert Newton Bynum served as Tulsa's mayor from 1899 to 1900. Did you know that? You remember that?
No.
Robert Newton Bynum. Now, Bynum bragged about this. He says, you know, my great-grandpappy so many years ago was also mayor. And apparently that mayor, Robert Newton Bynum, also had a mass. It's amazing what you can find if you dig in the archives of the 3D sound sources. So
he had a mass mandate during
also
the smallpox epidemic of
1899. No, this was 1899.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
R.N. Bynum was a Tulsa pioneer, merchant, and real estate investor and mayor. And he hobnobbed with outlaws as well as law-abiding citizens. That's from
like they do today, right?
Nothing's different than Wikipedia. So R.N. Bynum hobnobbed with maskless and masked people at the same time, or maybe at different times. But we've unearthed. Now there was an old man at the time in 1899, Allen Baines Johnston. He's a brigadier general, retired, numerous medals of valor. He had a military career from 1858 to 1880, Civil War, retired. And years later, this would have been 1889, the mask mandate kicked in. And they had an opportunity to record one of the earliest pioneering recordings of a brigadier Civil War general. And so they have audio salvaged a recording of this brigadier general had a disagreement with the mask mandate, and we were able to preserve from a wax cylinder, and I did some audio salvation, and was able to salvage the final portion of this man's recording sent to R.N. Mayor Bynum in 1899. And so I'm going to try to bring this in here. Here is a recording. This is Alan Baines Johnston, his response to R.N. Mayor Bynum's mask mandate from 1899. Let's see if I can bring this in here.
And on a personal note, sir, Majestic Mayor Bynum, your mask mandate I have reviewed thoroughly.
Bring it up.
You might as well petition that thunderstorm.
Touch more.
The up
I'm a
audio.
solvent citizen, free nation,
Now, were you able to catch any of that?
No,
No,
very
it's-
little.
It's either nothing or hot, too hot, distorted.
The salvation on that was really, really hard. And so it's a very difficult it's a difficult thing. But he says rather than abide by this mandate, you'd have a better chance of changing the direction of a thunderstorm. So let's see. I mean, now, so
I might have to start using that.
we're just gonna see what he has here. Let me try one more.
And
Here.
on a personal note, sir, Majestic
No.
Mayor Bynum, your mask mandate I have reviewed thoroughly, and after careful review have come to the conclusion that you might as well petition a thunderstorm to change directions than to petition me to wear a mask. I am a solvent citizen
Ooh.
and have served honorably and refuse this tyrannical order of yours to wear a mask, sir.
Tyrannical order. Tom.
Retired.
There you go. See, did you get
Yeah.
got some of the flavor of that old man? Art?
Yeah.
That's
The old man-
from
Love
a man who's used to ordering people around.
Mhm.
very
This is an
polite
officer
brigadier general.
over,
That's correct.
and he's saying the limits of government don't go this far.
Right.
And this is a guy who's used to barking orders.
That's correct.
Wow.
There's a time to bark orders, and then there's a time to, there's a time to bark orders to fight for our common liberty.
Yeah, and
And that's necessary. I mean, I wouldn't know what to do, so I would need to follow
David?
somebody to bark me some orders.
David, if I'm not mistaken, part of his oath is to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And a tyrant who goes beyond what their constitutional limitations are has made themselves an enemy of the Constitution.
Correct.
And that officer has a duty to protect the Constitution against that tyrant.
Yes.
That is correct, sir.
Awesome.
Anything else, gentlemen, before
Well-
we take ourselves out?
Well,
What do you got?
We teased something about how the elector.
Electing the president. Yes. How do we-
Kinda. There's been a lot that's gone on this week.
every
Just a little.
Monday comes fast and goes away fast.
Well, what I was hoping we could do is at least point out the 3 different ways they can attempt
okay,
to determine.
you sent the link. You're going to can you share the link with us?
Well, can I share the screen? I got it ready to go.
Yes, let's do it because you
Okay.
you brought that to me earlier and I almost lost it.
All right. So here's what I'm doing now. We're popping up the screen. Folks, you are at Wikipedia here. There we go. And this is Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution, or Article 2, Section 1, and then Clause 2. I just want to point out just the inset parts here.
Okay.
Folks. It says each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct. Again, the choosing of electors is set up, that power is given to the legislatures of each state.
Correct.
A number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the U.S. Congress. But then they say no sitting member of Congress is allowed to be an elector. Okay, this has to be a person who's not even on the federal payroll. They're not allowed to. Okay, so anyway, so there's that part. And then clause 3, how the electors meet. Now, we have in our panel here tonight a former presidential elector, David Oldham. My understanding is you read this really well 4 years ago in preparing yourself to be an elector. And it says that they shall meet in the state seat of government, and they'll cast their votes. And then that is sent to Congress, particularly, I believe, to the president of the Senate.
Correct.
Okay, so, and they will, and then the president of the Senate shall before both houses of Congress announce the tally. And there's full transparency here. But anyway, then this, by the way, was changed by the 12th Amendment. So this is the updated one. Okay, now here's what happened. If you've got a clear winner, then it stops right there. Okay, and they declare the winner, and that's when you have what you call formally a president-elect who's sworn in then.
Everybody knows.
Right. Now, clause 4, it says that Congress shall determine the time of the electors, and they've decided that's going to be coming up middle of December here.
Actually, go back up, David. It says that there in clause 4, Congress may determine the time of choosing the elector. Okay, in other words, Congress sets the date of the election. So Pennsylvania can't add 3 days past for the election, as they basically did.
They have the ability to state how they're going to do the election as a state, sovereign.
Exactly. Well, the
legislature tells the state, here's when you got to do it.
Right. Well, the legislature has certain federal requirements that they have to meet. But, and I just point this out just to clarify, Congress sets the date of the election. This year it was November 3rd. And so November 3rd was the election day. Quite frankly, not before, not after. That's anyway.
Okay. Now, here's the point here. It says, and the day, singular, of which they shall give their votes. Now, mail-in ballots are not actually tabulated until that Tuesday election day, at least in Oklahoma here. So, the collecting of ballots must all be done statutorily correct and on the day that Congress told them to.
Actually, what it is there it's talking about the first part of the clause is talking about the time of choosing the electors. Now, we individually are electors who then elect electors for the president.
Presidential electors.
The presidential electors. So the time of choosing the electors, that is set by Congress, and Congress sets the day on which the presidential electors give their vote. That's December 14th this year.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, good. So, and then, it mentions, who's allowed to vote, qualifications, vacancy, disability. All right, So what we have here, and I'm trying to look at what they decided is, clause 3. So if nobody has a majority when the joint session of the Senate and House of Representatives meet in Washington right around New Year's, if nobody has a majority, then they go to the House of Representatives, and only the top 5 candidates. So, of course, here, what do you got? You got two major
top 3 candidates. Top 3 candidates.
Well, there's individuals that are running independently too.
There's only 3 that go to Congress.
Yeah, I thought it said 5. Okay.
Man, you know, when you're sharing, if you drag and select words that you're looking at, it'll highlight it for us all.
Thank you. Good. Okay, the person having let's see, shall be a majority whole number of electors appointed. Okay. If there be more than one to have such
majority. From the 5 highest, it's the 5 highest here. I believe the 12th Amendment changes it to 3.
Okay.
So yeah,
okay.
It's now 3.
Okay, but get this. If the House cannot come up with a majority winner that gets a majority, and again, the Senate doesn't get to vote on this. The House does for president. Senate does for vice president. But if you're still nobody has a clear majority, then they pull all of the delegations together from all 50 states. District of Columbia, you're screwed. Okay, too bad. Puerto Rico, all you others, and just says, okay, you states each have 1 vote. Correct. Now you vote, and as long as somebody has 26 out of the 50, that's a majority.
Correct.
But get this. In choosing the president, the vote shall be taken by states. A quorum for this purpose shall be of a member or members of 2/3 of the states. 2/3 of the states have to show up in order to have a quorum. Here's a problem.
That's 35 people showing up.
Well, they're representing
the states, but you only need 35 people to show up.
Well, right. Basically. But again, they must show up in the capacity of representing.
Correct.
So what I'm saying, if you've got 24 states that are on the losing end, they still have a way to throw a cog in the wheel by just not showing up, and you don't have your quorum.
Oh, wait. No. No, that's the point. Is you have Republicans in those 24 states. Most of them. You have Republicans who are elected to Congress in New York. They can show up and be a quorum. Even if the Democrats all sit out, the Republicans from that state can show up and represent that state. And Nancy Pelosi doesn't get a say. Only the 35 who show up. They can elect their own leader for the day and be gone. So there's no cog in this. There's none. It's going to happen.
So let's clarify, because David, I stand corrected on here. So again, these are members of their DC delegation. That 3/5 of that delegation must be present in order for that state's vote to be cast.
No, it's 3/5 of the delegations must be represented by at least 1 member. So
a member of members. Yes, you're right.
This is why people tune in to 3D Politics, is because we explore the crevasses of the beautiful system here.
Yeah. If this subject I have become very comfortable with. The beauty is that right now what we have, what is going on and looks better every day, is that no one's going to get to 270 votes. Mm-hmm. So what the Constitution says, then it used the word devolves, the vote devolves to Congress. And specifically the House of Representatives for the president and the Senate for the vice president. Now, you have to have a member or members from every state. Now, the Democrats have people in every state as well. So if they gather real quick and declare their vote as democratic for the state, even if the state is majority Republican, they could steal the election yet. But the Republicans can do the same thing, because we can get 35 Republicans to show up from 35 states and call the election into being.
Okay.
There is a constitutional point that must be made. On the 6th of January, Congress is required constitutionally that if there is no winner from the Electoral College, they are immediately, the key word immediately, to vote for president.
Mm-hmm.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts, no wiggle room.
Okay.
They are to immediately go into session.
Because I've been around Democrats, I gotta be careful on some things here. What could possibly prevent somebody from being accepted, their credentials approved, and then be sworn in? Because that's something that's a tyranny of the majority can do that. They can refuse. I don't
know what you mean by having their credentials.
Not just anybody can show up and say, hi, I was elected. Okay. If, for instance, Bob Dornan was very upset that Sanchez, forget her first name, well, she stole that election. It was corruption in Orange County. And he insisted that Newt Gingrich not seat her.
Oh, right.
Okay. But Gingrich did seat her.
Okay.
So I'm telling you, even Bob Dornan realized that that's some of the powers that the leadership has. But here's my concern on it. How can you even have a vote for speaker if you don't first seat everybody?
Well, remember that the 12th, 14th, and 20th Amendments all set all this in motion. The 20th Amendment says that the Congress is to begin their term on the 3rd of January.
Yeah.
Okay. They count on the 6th of January. So it is the next Congress who may elect the president. Okay. The first time in a very long time that we've had a president elected by Congress.
Hold it. The reason we're at that moment, because look, I've pretended like I've understood this all the way through. I've been thinking about soccer and how much I hate it. So this is, I got to say though, is this not the best system of government ever devised by mankind? This is amazing.
It is, isn't it amazing?
That are built in even during times of tyrants. It's a fascinating system. So what you're saying, Oldham and Van, is that it's because they cannot decide by the certain date that then the Constitution says Congress votes for the president.
Correct.
Which means, according to the Constitution, again, it would be the new Congress, not the old Congress or the previous.
Oh, yes.
Congress.
Correct.
This is brilliance. Brilliance.
Okay. Here's the thing. When somebody is removed from Congress, either they die or something, and either that state appoints somebody or there is a special election, that the powers rest on the speaker when and how he wants to acknowledge and seat that person. But we've had
okay, now I think I'm starting to understand what you're driving at.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still not quite.
Right. Now, what happens when you have a January 3rd scenario on an odd number year, I believe it goes to an officer called the clerk of the House that officially certifies all that stuff and says, okay, you're allowed on the floor, you're allowed on the floor.
Well, constitutionally, only Congress has authority over their own membership. So in other words, Congress, via Newt Gingrich as speaker, basically allowed this gal to remain in Congress because only Congress, it's in Article 1, only Congress has authority over that.
My question is, do they have the same kind of credentialing arguments that we have at the county and state convention?
No, none. No,
I don't know, Oldham.
No,
I don't know.
Well, this year, because there's so much bad, so much fraud and impropriety going on.
Yes.
They should, but whether or not we will see that, and that shouldn't have any effect on this. This
absolutely
race.
Will.
No, because remember,
when you decide who gets to vote.
No, you only get one vote per.
No,
state.
that's a second tiebreaker.
Nope. Once it goes to Congress, Congress gets one vote per state. Period. From the first vote, and that's key. And you can see it even doubled down in the 12th Amendment. But they always get a single vote per state. Now, they may not come to a winner the first time around, and it may take multiple votes, and it has in years past.
Oh, you're right.
Okay.
So here's where they confuse a lot of us, and this is coming from the Constitution. It says it says the president of the Senate shall, and the presidents of the Senate and House of Representatives, open the certificates of votes from the states, state electors, and they'll be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes shall be president. If such number be a majority, if the whole elector is appointed, and if there be more than one who has such majority and have an equal number of votes, then the House of Representatives shall immediately choose by ballot one of them for president. If you stop there, then it looks like just a vote of the House. Okay.
Can you share that page and highlight what you just read?
Absolutely. Let's go back to this thing.
As it pertains to the president, only the House has a say. Only the House has a say for president.
Right. When you get to that, here's what I just read. It says the House of Representatives shall immediately choose by ballot one of them for president, and if no person have majority, then the five highest, like said. The House may in like manner choose the president, but in choosing the president, votes shall be taken by states.
Correct.
Okay, so it is a vote of the House, but not of a vote of each member holding one vote in the House.
Correct.
Okay.
So the various delegations will have to get together and have a vote for their state, and will have to represent for their state.
Okay. Answer me this then, Oldham. Supposing you have 5 representatives in Congress. Mm-hmm. Some state may have 5.
Right.
3 of them are Democrat.
Right.
That makes Democrat a majority. But what if both senators are Republican?
Doesn't matter. The senators aren't in it. Only the House for the president. The senators are going to elect the vice president.
Okay.
It's their job. But only the House is dealing with the president. The senators are out
of
the
system. I sound like Yakov Smirnov. What a system.
Well, what I do want to say,
it's awesome.
Amazing. In fact, because you guys are just killing me and I don't get to say anything with your intelligence. I just make jokes and stuff, but I will never forget listening to Van and Scott Meacham do the same type of routine on something about the dollars that were coming in, and they both were saying, well, because of the rules, you'd spend it this way. But Meacham would say, well, then actually this would be, and they were analyzing in the same type of way. And it was then I really began to grasp the brilliance of the system, and freedom is all about vagaries. The fact that it's not defined like Hitler and his Nazis. That's what gives us the right to be free. The fact that there's all this discussion between you guys about how we're going to be free, and the way you discussed it, how Scott Meacham and Van were talking about how the money might or might not fall into the hands of whoever might or might not be able to spend it. And the beautiful thing was in Nazi Germany in 1933, there were no vagaries. It was like, boom, you're done. Just like Dr. Dart in the Tulsa Health Department. It's like, pow, if it's after 11, you're going down with an elbow to the face because we're trying trying to protect you from a virus. We don't want you to live unsafely. So bam, bam, bam. There you go.
Okay.
So the vagaries is what leaves us to freedom. You guys are well defining it. I appreciate it.
Okay. So if we, assuming that some states cannot certify by December 14th to where they can actually call up, which electors get to cast votes for that state, then I would believe that state will be absent.
Correct.
And then you may have nobody getting 270.
Correct.
Then it goes to the to the Congress, to the House of Representatives. The problem I see there, Oldham, is you've got so far what looks like a slim majority on the Democrat side.
Well, remember, when you change it, you have it in the sense of what's the word I'm looking for? A total number of representatives.
Okay.
But when you examine them state by state, you see that actually the Republicans have a majority, slim, and I believe it actually increases with the new Congress. But in the current Congress, it was 24 to 26, 23 to 26, and one that was absolutely equal.
Minnesota was tied. In Minnesota, I think actually flipped now and went majority Republican.
Okay, but here's the point. How the delegation figures out how they are going to vote is up to that delegation. Okay, sure. They have to face the voters back home. They have to take a look at lawful ballots versus unlawful ballots and so forth, and make the right vote. And that's why it goes to them, because they have to they literally have to answer to the voters. As an elector, I might have to answer to the voters later on, just because I might need votes because of some ambition I have in future time. But these guys need it in 2 years, because they're going to come back and they're going to face their voters as soon as they come back home, in town halls and in the election that happens in 2 years.
So I'm going to do a little research after the program here as to which states have majority Republican members of Congress, but the state voted Democrat.
Those vice versa. And because I want to see how many, every member of Congress right now has a duty to not vote against or not vote for Joe Biden, because Joe Biden has already sworn that he is going to violate the Constitution on a number of points, gun grabs and mask mandates, and on and on and on it goes.
Sure.
So he's already declaring himself dictator of the U.S.
This is, again, I've asked the question before. How can you take the oath of office with your hand on the Bible to uphold the Constitution, or the Quran to uphold the Constitution, and swear you're going to take the Constitution? You can't. It's literally hyperbole.
When you're a pathological liar, it doesn't matter. And that's who this guy is.
Where's the judge that says you're not upholding it? You can't say you only, honey, except for all the other gals too. It's like, you can't say I'm going to uphold the Constitution while tearing down the Second Amendment. Literally, it's a contradiction. It's like climate change. It's redundancy. They're utilizing terms that aren't even real, and then they're just
right, Tom. Absolutely right, and that's the point, though, is that there's no Democrat who could rightly vote for Joe Biden. Not a single one, whether they be an elector or a congressman, cannot do it and uphold their oath to the Constitution.
Listen, you guys are just blowing it away, and I want to go some more, but I just, for the fun of it, I try to reset every quarter hour. Here we are. We've pushed through some. I think we've done it. Actually, some of the best stuff I've heard on 3D Politics is some of these vagaries of definition of exactly how it works. So many people have no idea what's going on, me included, and so once again, you're joining me, the conversational pirate, the plunderer of conversation, just stealing everything I can from these two brilliant people, David Vann from SoonerPolitics.org and David Oldham, ConstitutionalGrounds.com. You're not going to find this anywhere. There's a lot of powerhouses in Tulsa that are trying to build a chemistry. I think they've heard of what we're doing, and they're trying to steal the ideas that we have of secrets of how it works.
Tom, if you don't mind, I'm probably going to splice off this particular section and write an article on it, include it, because I think this is a good teaching, and we're not great at teaching. I think we could have done better. I know I could have done better on this.
I could have made more jokes. I could have interrupted more often, but I just, I was overwhelmed by the information.
But this is far better than anything I've seen out there.
Get this anywhere else. That's right.
Oh, I watch and I'm pained by these people on national TV who supposedly are so brilliant and such educated people and scholarly, and they will not look it up. It's like trying to get somebody to look up a verse in the Bible. You just can't get them to crack the book. And it's so short and so small, and it really doesn't take that much effort. But I mean, it does take understanding words all out a little bit, but
it's not effort for you because you think about this stuff. For other people, it's hard.
Listen, with the corporate media today, they're not allowed to think. They're told what to think.
They
get their
just
talking
amazing how big of fools they make of themselves.
Well,
I mean, I just like
the element of surprise, and I brought this up earlier in the show. The element of surprise is a lot of it. Not everybody's stupid, but if you're sucker punched, everybody's stupid, Yeah. So what's going on is it's a 100-year Bolshevikian plan to take over a free society. They're just implementing the brownie plans. They're following the recipe of what they did in the Baltic states, back and forth. The Nazis and the Russians. They've been practicing how to take over free societies for more than 100 years, and all these little 33-year-old millennials are like, oh gee, I like socialism. Maybe they have zero understanding that the fact that they're under assault right now. I mean, I have children who are related to me that are they're like they because OAN, the news network, doesn't have high dollar lighting, and they're like, well, it looks like a low dollar high college news network. If a 7-year-old says 4 + 4 is 8, it's the truth. It doesn't matter. What are you judging on their? But they judge on what it looks like.
Have the kids been watching Jimmy Kimmel lately? I mean, it's low budget if there ever was one. It's home videos.
Everybody's gone to that. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, they've zoomed to the bottom and we're zooming to the top.
Yeah.
The kids today are under an immense amount of pressure to believe a lie that is very well sold, and they have no public school education of the history of the fact that they're being played like Pinocchio. I mean, it's like the how about some candy, little girl? And we've been doing this to you gals for 100 years, and the feminists are at the forefront of arguing. It's insane. The means of production are best explained by the uterus. There is no better explanation of the means of production than the uterus. And the government, with Mayor Bynum locally, is taking over the means of production. When they tell me how to calculate my risk, they're calculating my wage. And when the feminists push for the government to control the means of production, they have no idea they're giving away their uterus. I'm done. Anybody?
I got a quote for you, Tom.
Okay.
And this goes out to my my friends Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey. People who say that you're not allowed to question the science. Let me tell you, Jack and Mark, if you're not allowed to question it, it ain't science. It's religion.
Exactly.
And this is what they're doing, is they're telling us, do not dare question us.
Well, and remember also, at the level deeper, a religion is a study of man, which is not theology. Theology is a study of God.
Right.
So yeah, a religion is a bad thing.
Well, yeah. Yeah, because the Bible itself is not a history of God. It's the history of man.
Uh-oh. He just
Think about that.
opened a can
Say
of...
that again.
Yeah.
The
yeah,
Bible
right,
is
right,
not
right.
the Bible is not a history of God. It is a history of man.
Oldham, let's gang up on him.
Okay. I'm not
Oh,
gonna
no,
I'm just not
I'm
gonna
out.
get into all this
I
philosophy.
think it is a history of God. I thought it was a history of
Well,
God.
keep in mind there's an overlap,
I
but
gotta
it's
get Matt
only
Vermillion back on.
Yeah,
the
there's a bit
Bible.
of both, but
The Bible only takes a
Okay, that's
segment
correct.
of eternity and
Correct.
talks to us about a segment
Okay,
of it.
I like
It makes
that.
reference to beyond that segment,
correct.
but it did 99.99% of it all deals within a certain time segment.
I got you, and I can agree with that. And I also agree with what Oldham said, as certain parts of it are a history of this, and certain parts of it a history of that, and certain parts of it are poetry, and certain parts of it are a little, you know.
Well, I think
Right.
David clarified himself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm still, you know, I'm up.
Because to give an unabridged history of God, I mean, there is no universe.
It's not possible.
Yes.
It's not
Yeah,
possible to do it even of what Jesus accomplished in his life.
Yes. Exactly.
Did
Yes.
God create soccer?
Touche.
Though? That's the question.
Yeah.
Or did
Good
devil?
show tonight,
I think
guys.
the devil. I think the devil created soccer.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, I don't hate soccer. I take it back. Everything I ever said. I haven't watched
You
any.
can hate it if you want.
No, I can't.
Just so long as you don't deprive me of my right to enjoy.
That's correct. Now
right?
we're talking. That's
There
I
you
can hate
go.
soccer all I want.
So
But,
I tell you what, I got a question for you guys that stumps every one of my Pentecostal friends who believes that the devil is the instigator of everything that happens bad.
Oh yeah, every door. Yes.
When Lucifer fell, did he choose to, or did the devil make him do it?
Boom, there it is. Both David's, ladies and gentlemen, David Van, our outgoing joke, Soonerpolitics.org, and of course, David Oldham, our constitutional expert. Hey, I appreciate both you guys with all that great information. Van, you dice it up any way you want. I love what you do. David Oldham of constitutionalgrounds.com. Tommy McKay here, your verbal Viking, your plunderer of conversation. And we're going to send everybody out. Now, as soon as I get you guys out, I'm going to replay this salvaged audio just for those that are listening.
That is neat that it's so old.
Oh, my God. This stuff is incredible. I mean, this is what the French call de la du toit le fichion.
Good night, everyone.
Okay, we'll see you guys.
Good night.
Take yourselves out while I replay this.
Okay. Good night.
Good night, guys. Thanks.
Yeah.
And on a personal note, sir, majestic Mayor Bynum, your mask mandate I have reviewed thoroughly, and after careful review have come to the conclusion that you might as well petition a thunderstorm to change directions than to petition me to wear a mask. I am a solid citizen in a free nation and have served honorably and refuse this tyrannical order of yours to wear a mask.